Hello and welcome to the How of High Performance. Now, today's guest has been on my radar for years to want to have a conversation like this with. And I'm so thrilled to have the one and only Rebecca Hirst with us here, who is the brand marketing communications leader for EY Global Consulting. Rebecca,
Thank you.
welcome.
That's my new job title. I've only had it 5 days and I'm still getting used to it. It's quite a mouthful, isn't it?
It's an exciting one. I'm looking forward to unpacking what that
Me
means
too.
and your journey with your career. So, before we sort of dive into the questions around high performance and high stakes, I would just love it if you could kindly share a quick overview of your career to date, so we understand where your experience has come from, especially the exciting recent move that you've
Yeah.
just
So I've
come
spent the
from.
last 5-ish years at UI, an enormous professional services firm, big global professional services firm, and not a place that I ever expected to end up. And we can maybe talk about that. Prior to EY, I was marketing director at Samsung in the UK, and before that, Coca Cola. Coca Cola for 7 years, and before that, Kimberly Clark, working with like Andrex puppies and all that good stuff. And before that, agency. So, kind of, if you go way back, I spent my first 10 years or so agency, and then after that, mainly tech and FMCG brands. It's only latterly, in the sort of last 5 years of my career, I've segued into, in inverted commas, B2B and into professional services. So that's like the last 30 years in a 2-minute version.
Well done, because that is one of the hardest questions I think I ask on this podcast show to just give a summary where people are amazingly experienced and have had lots of different things that have built up to where you are today. But thank you. That was a great
As a short
summary.
version.
I also like just to start with a deceptively simple question, because I think high stakes is this language and label, but what does it
Mhm.
mean? So, what's your personal definition, Rebecca, in just very simple human language? What does high stakes mean?
So the way that I think about high stakes, it's a situation where the outcomes, whatever they may be, have got significant weight. So that with that,
Mm,
it brings an intensity, and there's a sense, I think, of heightened risk when we're talking about high stakes. And therefore, if you're thinking about intensity and higher risk, there are bigger consequences to the decisions and the actions that you're taking that are part of that situation. And these can be, in my experience, in my kind of definition of it, it can be something that can happen in 24 hours. It can be super high risk. Crisis, for example, crisis communications, be part of my job. Or it can be something like a big event or a big launch that you've been planning for months and months and months and months. That can also be high stakes. So I think it can span those two things. But for me, the biggest difference between that and like day to day stuff is that elevated sense of consequence and weight.
mm. Thank you. Because I'm loving getting to do these interviews because no two people give the same response,
Yeah.
and I think that's fascinating
Yeah.
in itself. So, given your diverse career to date and the fact you're literally having this conversation with me now at the cusp of being 5 days into your new role, is there a specific moment from your leadership career thus far that you'd be happy to share with us around how you personally, as that senior leader, navigated high stakes, with particular emphasis on those practical
Mhm.
how, steps you took to get through to a positive outcome?
Yeah, there's probably a handful that I can choose. When I sort of think back on my career, I can probably count on one, if not two hands, the situations where I think are truly high stakes, like truly, truly high stakes. And that's not to say what
Mm.
we do day in, day out isn't important and, absolutely crucial for the business. I think the high stakes ones I think about slightly differently. Now, one that I felt was really high stakes at the time, and this is going back a couple of years when I was in my sort of last year or so at Samsung, was being invited to do something called Unpack. So, Unpack is when we launch new devices to the world. So, brand new technology, usually in front of an audience of about 3,000 tech journalists, usually in the US. So, this particular instance was in San Francisco. So, I've been at Samsung for about 4 years, and I got invited to open the show at Unpack. Now, this is high stakes stuff because at that point in time, we are going back a couple of years, it was quite unusual for a woman to be invited onto the stage in those situations, and it was quite unusual for a
Okay.
Western woman to be invited onto the stage in that situation. Things have changed now, and I'm really happy to be seeing Samsung invite much more diversity kind of in on stage, but also in many different ways. But at that point in time, it had usually been a man, and it'd usually been either a US or an American guy or a Korean guy that opened the show. So I got a call saying, "Will you do it?" Now the year before I'd done a
Uh-huh.
UK one, so they'd seen me in action, and this year I got a call to do the big global one in San Francisco. And
Uh-huh.
this is an enormous deal because basically I was launching the brand new flip phone. I've got one here. Here's one I
I
even
love
like 5
that.
years later,
I love
I'm like, "This is my baby. I'm still wedded to this. I'll never, I'll never let it go." So I was invited to open the show to launch the Z that's called Z Flip, so Z Flip in English, to or in UK British English, to the world. And this, if you get it wrong, it's career defining at Samsung in that you probably wouldn't have much of a career. If you get it right, obviously, you're then launching this thing to the whole of the world's tech press.
amazing.
And the
Crikey.
things I think, on this sort of human side of it is petrifying. There's so much pressure. And on the other side of it, it's super exciting because I felt I'm opening doors for other women. Like if I can do it, other women can do it and can follow what I've done. But the pressure to perform, particularly when on stage you are doing live tech demos, it offers a
Gosh.
whole other level of, oh my God, what if it goes wrong? And the year before in the London one of the tech demos had gone slightly glitchy. So that little thing at the back of my head was going, the tech's going to muck up, the tech's going to muck up, the tech.
Oh, I can feel the tension just as you're telling the
I was like,
story.
I'm sure. And I knew that I can present on stage. I'm fine with that. And I have learned, like, I've had a lot of help along the way. But the bit that was petrifying me more than anything was I knew we had to do live tech demo. And so that in itself for me was super high stakes, not just being on stage, not just being in front of all these people, but the tech. So I've learned many things through that process. I think if you think about the practicalities of doing something like that, one of the things that I learned through that was you cannot underprepare. Like you literally cannot underprepare. Um, I was in rehearsals for 6 days solid. It felt like I was going to go on like onto the West End. Like I'm sure they rehearsed for a lot longer than 6 days, but for a 15-minute slot, I was on in sort of two bursts. I opened the show, I came off stage, I went back on stage. 6 days of rehearsals for those like minutes of performance, and I had the
Wow.
most amazing speaker coach, and we we like as I said, day in day out we're rehearsing, but what he taught me was so much more than just standing on stage and presenting. It was about body language, about punctuation, about rise and fall, about like leaning in and out of the audience, about reading the audience, how to properly use an auto cue, stuff that I'd never really had to do on that scale before. So like the element of preparation now that I take into any other sort of stage performances that I do or presentations that I do, I've learned from that moment. And the tech bit, we just
Wow.
practiced and practiced and practiced and practiced and practiced. And I prayed. I
Yes, because it is tech, isn't it? You cannot guarantee it won't
no,
go wrong.
exactly. So yeah, that was super high stakes for me.
And how did it go, Rebecca? Did it work? Did everything go
Amazingly. I
smoothly?
mean, it couldn't have gone any better, really. I mean, I have got a clip of it, still got a clip of it. So I saved some of the footage. Might even be on my LinkedIn profile somewhere, but that the feeling of having done it well, and I can still remember the music that plays as I walk out on stage. I have it on my phone now. It's kind of like my if I need something to uplift me moment, I play that in, and it takes me right back to that moment, standing behind the scenes waiting to go on, and just the adrenaline and feeling like I've prepared for this, I've got this. And whilst it was nerve wracking, that feeling of like I can do this has stayed with me. So it went really really well.
Was there anything else you did in your own self as a senior leader? Because obviously the preparation, I couldn't agree more. But in terms of, was it that then allowed the brain, the nerves, But was there anything else that you used to help you just have that real
Yeah,
clarity about I can do this? Because it is, as you say, and was a career defining moment. You get to do it once.
massively. And the when I look back on it, and I was very fortunate to be able to do this, and in a way it was necessary, so it sort of needed to happen. I basically created my own little bubble for a week. So I flew to San Francisco, stayed in a hotel, relatively central, and all I needed to do was make sure I stayed well. Really important, right? Because the last thing I needed was, after
Mm.
getting on a long haul flight, and this was right before COVID. COVID was just like bobbing about in the atmosphere. There was a cruise ship literally off the coast of San Francisco that was quarantined. All my job is to stay
Wow.
well, not get a sore throat, not get a cold. Can you imagine going on stage with a streaming cold? And so I wrapped myself in as much of a little bubble as I could for that week. So, for example, I ate in exactly the same diner that I knew from a previous trip to San Francisco every single day for that week. I walked across the road, and I had the same food every single morning. I went to a little gym down the road. Well, actually, it's Barry's Boot Camp, for anyone knows Barry's Boot Camp. It's actually not a little gym, it's fairly ferocious, full on cardio. I went down to Barry's Boot Camp every morning, and I sweated like profusely and really had a massive workout. So I'd go down there, I'd get my coffee on the way back, I'd go to the diner, and then once I'd done that, I knew that then my day could start. And mostly I walked 40 minutes from the hotel to where the venue was. I didn't even want to really get on a bus, or on the mass rapid transport system in San Francisco. I didn't want to get in a cab. I just wanted to be in my own headspace and kind of walk through the streets of San Francisco down to the area where the venue was. And I was so almost like religious in a way about that one week, because I didn't need to be sightseeing. I didn't need to be doing loads of calls for work. I just needed to focus on that one thing. And there's something that I believe deeply about being successful in senior leadership roles, and that is your number one strength in business is being well. And
Oh,
you know,
absolutely.
I'm a qualified nutritionist. I've done a postgrad in personalized nutrition. I used to coach sort of health, well-being, high performance from a wellness perspective. I don't anymore because I don't have the brain space for it. That's a whole different story. But I believe you have to know what keeps you calm and sane and energized, and keep doing it, even more so when the stakes are high. Like, it would have been really easy for me to go, you know what, I'm not going to go to gym. I'm not going to do any exercise. All I'm going to do is eat steak and chips at the hotel and go and rehearse. But I was like, no, I have to do the things that keep me sane. And I know they are exercise and a good breakfast and
I love that.
decent coffee en route. So I think that hydration and good sleep are the things that helped that performance.
Brilliant. If we turn now more to the personal
Yes.
world, because I think we sometimes forget at our peril that senior leaders are also
Yeah.
people with
Yeah.
lives. And there isn't this nice, neat line between work in and out, yourself in and out of work. Is there a personal high stakes experience you've gone through, Rebecca, that you'd be happy to share with us? And then what you did / what you learned as a result that perhaps could help other people who may be going through a similar or different, but can just take inspiration from your
Yeah, I
story.
think that I'm pretty honest with my team about, life, work, and the two, and what I might be dealing with or what I'm grappling with at home. Versus, the same with them. I encourage them to bring that to work if they feel they want to. Some of them don't want to bring that stuff to work. I completely respect that. You know, illness and divorce and children being challenging, or like there's so many things that come into our work day that people that we spend so much time with are facing, and that I'm no different to that. I think one of the biggest high stakes situations I've managed or sort of faced, and it's through my own choosing, it's not something that's happened to me, it's moving countries. So having moved
Yes.
from, well, I've lived in France, in the US, in Australia, um, I think and it gets easier, I think, the more I've done it, but choosing to uproot everything and go to another country, where I always think of it as like nothing really changes in what you're doing, but it feels like everything has changed because the whole world around you is different. Like the basics are different. It feels so fundamental. So I think for me that it's always been a high stakes situation because there's never really a good time to do it.
True. True.
Yes. I mean, the craziest example of that was when I had just met my now husband in the UK, and I had applied for a visa to go and work in Australia. And I've been in the application
Wow.
process for years because it takes a while, as you probably know. And just as I met Nick, I had got my visa to go and work in Australia. So, do I
Wow.
stay because I feel like this is the man that I want to be with, or do I do what I always wanted to do, was go and work in Australia? I've got my visa now. And so I went, which is one of the hardest decisions I ever made because we'd moved in together by then. I was like, I've now got I was
Crikey.
like, I've got to go because if I don't go, I never want to,
You'll never
yeah, I never
know.
know. I didn't never
You'll,
wanted to feel like I'd had to put that at his feet. I went because I didn't go because of you. I was like, no, I have to go. Try it, stretch, stretch this bungee cord and see how far it stretches and see what happens. So off I went. And then we had a very long distance relationship for a bit.
couldn't get more long distance if you tried, really.
Right. And it kind of cemented what I probably knew right at the beginning, which was he was the man for me. And we got married years later. But that was, I think, in terms of moving countries, that was the moment at which I was like, oh, this timing sucks. But I had to do it.
But great bravery to do it anyway.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, and is there any advice you'd give from that experience practically around if people are listening or reading and they equally have got a life change, moving
Yeah.
countries? Anything you've learned from having done it a few times now, as you say, in hindsight, that you think just these are the practical steps that make that the most positive experience you can set it up
Yeah,
to be?
I think the main thing is really is to trust your instinct. I mean, say that in many situations, right? But for some people that that situation might have been really different to if you'd met someone that you thought you were going to marry, you might want to stay because that'd be what your gut was saying. But my gut was saying you have to do this. So I think following what
Mm.
your gut instinct is telling you is super important, and also understanding or reminding yourself why it was important to you in the first place. Because I wanted to go and experience living in Australia. I've got family there, and it had always been a dream. I was like, if I can't not do it. There's just no two ways about it. So I think I don't know about practical advice for moving countries. That's probably a whole other podcast in itself. But I think when you're facing a decision like that, there's no one that can make it for you. I don't think you've got to trust your own instinct, and you have to really tune into your motivation for doing it in the first place and stay true to that.
I like that because that's quite universal advice. Actually, it's very
Yeah.
applicable to any high, which is great. This is
There's never like a
helpful.
right or wrong, right? You
So,
just have to, and it's one of the things I firmly believe in. And I did a TED talk about this, right? A TEDx talk, which is in these moments you have to trust your instinct, but also then I believe that you just have to take one step forwards because you'll know, having taken one step forward, you'll get feedback from the universe in some shape, or form as to whether or not that's the right move. Like you don't, you
yeah,
just you'll sense it, or something will happen. You'll be like, oh, it was the right move, or it wasn't the right move, and I'll do something about it. But everything within reason is reversible. So even if it's not quite right, you just take a step back.
nice. So, if we look to summarize your experience, which I know is killer questions, to go right from the amazing different career like roles you've had as you've been building your career, the life experiences, the cultures, the countries, the high stakes moments, are there key lessons that you believe have really stayed with you that you think can also help others? And I'm talking people who are senior
Yeah,
leaders who are also navigating high
yeah.
stakes. Lessons that you believe these are the things that really do set you up for success when it's high stakes.
I love a high stakes situation. I don't know whether
Me too.
I think they focus your mind, focus my mind certainly. They make me tune out all of the extraneous noise that happens around. I can almost like singularly direct my focus and my attention to that, which I love. Not everything stops around, but I just love that focus. And in the high stakes situations I've led in, I think, and some of these are going to be universal truths, but number one is to be really, really clear on the outcome that we're aiming to achieve. Like, it's, oh, we're navigating a crisis in 24 hours. Is it that we want to stay out of the press? Is it that we want to manage the message? Is it that we need to go out to our, what, 23,000 people at EY in the UK alone? Do we want to go out to them first and manage this? Like, get super clear on the outcome that we are aiming for in this situation, and frequent, open, honest conversation is absolutely crucial. And often, I think in these high stakes situations, and I'm thinking more about the longer term ones where you've got a big project, a big deadline, like major focus on you, even
Mm.
like daily stand ups. I'm a big believer in like, quick, what's going on? What do we need to jump on? What situations do we need to resolve? And then within that, I think that helps that people within that team be really clear on their role within it. Like, what specifically do I need you to do? Like, which bit are you leading? How can we help you? And I find if you don't get super clear on that outcome and on the communication and the roles of people within it, and trust them to do it, just trust them to do what you've asked them to do, things start to flounder. And the other thing, I mean, probably goes without saying. I feel like I'm stating the obvious in some of these things, but stay calm. Now, the best people that I work with who are amazing communications directors, particularly in crisis, are calm to a fault. And I've had criticism chucked my way for that, which is sometimes people need to see that your hair's on fire. Said one boss, oh, my hair looks like it's on fire today. Sometimes people need to see that your hair's on fire. And I'm like, what do you actually mean by that? Because my default is like calm in a crisis. He's like, they just need to know that you've got it and that you're on it. I was like, that's slightly different, right? Because I think you can give that energy of
Mm.
being calm and on it and in control of it without running around like a headless chicken. And I think within that, there's something that is super important, that's being decisive. And there's one of the bosses at EY
Right.
that talks about, you can have a slow yes or a slow maybe. Sorry, a slow, what is it? I've got it all wrong now. He talks about wanting to do a quick yes or a quick no, but not a slow maybe, because the slow maybes are what kill high stakes situations, like it's a yes or a no. Um, and I think that
Yeah.
that is super important. And again, you might not always get it right, a bit like deciding to move countries. But if you take a decision, move forward on it, you're like, oh, you don't know it. Obviously, but it's better than floundering in the middle. And the
Yeah.
final bit I think about, and again, this is from a former boss that I really rate, and he said to me, seize the opportunity to lead when it presents itself. Like, never defer to others on it. If you see an opportunity to lead on something, lean in and do it. Don't sit back and think, oh, someone else is going to take care of it. And I think in high stakes situations, that's super important. The minute you hear something that needs to jump on it, you jump on it. Even if you're not the one resolving everything, you just say to the people around you, don't worry, I've got it. I've sorted it. Well, sorting it.
And is anything you'd extend from that specifically to leading teams through high stakes? Because I think that's something that some people find really natural and they thrive. Other people find it one of the hardest parts of
Yeah.
their job as a senior leader, of leading
Yeah.
others. So just to dive a bit deeper around lessons, if you're happy to, around getting those teams through high stakes.
We've just landed. We just finished a really high stakes situation about 3 weeks ago. Project, rather. It's not a situation. It was a project, and the project team was pretty enormous on it. It was an enormous kind of launch moment. It involved so many different pieces to it, and the team was pretty big. And there was so many moments during that project where things went awry. I mean, right up until the very last minute, but they do, right? That's life. Things are always going awry. Um, I think in those situations, my advice or my approach is always to say calm and clear as much as I can be. And if I don't know the answer or I don't know what to do next, I'll say to them, I'm not sure about this. Like, leave it with me. I need to noodle it tonight, or I'll come back to you on it tomorrow. And the other thing as well, I think that's really helped here is making sure there's always a bit of humour. Like, there's in these situations we
Mm.
get so serious about how important this business thing is, but so many things go wrong along the way. So many things go right, but so many things go wrong. Like the little things that nobody sees behind the scenes, that we have to have a laugh about it and go, "Oh my god, that thing's just happened. It's just gone spectacularly wrong." Um, and making sure that you have time to celebrate the little wins and the big wins, and
Love
saying
that.
thank you at the end. We did this enormous project, and at the end, I wrote this big long email, which is not my style at all, but I wrote a big long email and I name checked every single person on the project, so specifically thank you for what they brought to the project. And sometimes I had to say to them, what did they do on that specifically? Can you give me some examples? So that when everyone got this thank you at the end, they were like, oh, yeah, they've noticed that that's what I did. Not just thank you, everyone, you've been great. It was very, very, very specific. And I think that's what people remember. And I like that when
Yeah,
someone says to me, thank you specifically for doing that thing. You were amazing at, or so I try to bring that to the big high stuff that we work on.
nice. It's the human touches, isn't it? And the connection and the recognition, but just also just saying thank you.
Yeah.
I think it makes a big
And it's saying
difference.
thank you in a way that you mean as well. That's not a
Yeah,
platitude or a like literally just one group thing, or you know,
it's
buy
not
another
token.
beer,
It's
buy
not
your
just
beer. I'm like,
pick.
no, I actually don't want to be able to French champagne, thanks.
Me too.
I'm not so good at that, right? And I've had to learn that from other people around me. I'm more like a little bit more like bish bash bosh, get on with it, thanks very much, bye. But I've seen other people around me do that. I was like, genius. I'm gonna well, some
It
of these things
works.
I've like picked up along the way.
It's true. When I'm working with teams, I will often be working with the senior leader of the team, and I'll be like, "How are we going to say
Yeah,
thank you? How are you
yeah,
wanting to say thank you?" And there's always I think sometimes it's easier when it's not your team as well, when they're the outsider looking in, but just to say, "What about that little human
yeah,
touch?" And they always go down brilliantly. And I think when the stakes are high and people are stressed and they're pressurized and there's only so many hours in the day, you've got to dig that little bit deeper for the energy and the will to do the little touches, because they're the easiest things to go, actually, I just can't be bothered. Or, if I'm really honest, or just don't have the energy. But it pays back dividends hugely when
yeah.
you
And you
do.
raise a good point there about high stakes is often asking above and beyond of people. Like this isn't day job stuff. Generally, I find with high stakes, it is all
No, it's not.
encompassing, isn't it? Sometimes, like whether it's long hours or weekends or just, it's all elevated. So I think sometimes acknowledging that and appreciating that it has been over and above. Even just saying to people
Yeah.
like, I know you've worked all weekend. Like, I don't care what you do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Like, see you Thursday. Like, just go and
Yeah.
be with your family. Go and chill. Go and recharge your batteries.
Yeah. It matters. So as we're coming to the close of what we could be here for a long time, because I'm loving this conversation. But if I was to just ask you to restrict you to just one piece of that really impactful advice for a fellow senior leader, Rebecca, if you're saying, right, if you're a senior leader with responsibility, significant, high
Yeah,
profile, one piece of advice, if you could just have one in your bag, your tool bag,
yeah.
and you can only keep one, what would that one piece of advice be, please, for other leaders to navigate high
I,
stakes well?
I mean, I could write a list of 100 things, but I think the one that I hold truest and that speaks to my values most is protect your energy, because being well is our biggest business asset. And if you don't protect your energy and you don't look after yourself, you might as well, like not bother turning up. Because I just think it's so important. I think it's overlooked in this world of burnout, and I hate the word double hatting, like people doing all of these different roles simultaneously. That where the pressure's on and the stakes are high, if we don't look after ourselves and protect our energy, we make life so much harder for ourselves.
I could not agree more, especially from the privilege I have when I'm working with the people very openly and authentically. I think getting those fundamentals to have priority and actually be consistent is something it's a game changer either way. If you don't do it, it's harder. If you do it, life's just easier, isn't it?
Certainly is.
So I think that's a lovely mic drop moment for us, Rebecca, to
Uh,
say thank you so much. There's so many wonderful nuggets you've shared. I love your honesty. That's why I wanted you. I love the fact it's just this. You said, "Oh, is it too obvious?" No, it's not, because often it's the obvious that people ignore because it can almost feel too obvious. So thank you for keeping it real and for being so generous. It's been great to have you on the
Pleasure.
show.
Thank you.